Welcome to the Butt Fixer Podcast, brought to you by Shane Gentry and John Van Olden. Sit back, listen up, and listen good. You're going to hear it all right because we've already done it all wrong. We're going to help you meet your goals and fix your butts. Welcome to the Butt Fixer Podcast.
Okay, all set.
All right.
Shane, yep.
What is going on, Butt Fixer world? All 13 of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Today, we've got a very special guest, as we do each week. Today, we've got Corkey Miller with Action Animals USA. And I would say that there's a pretty good chance if you've ever turned on a TV, you've probably seen some of her work. She's got an amazing story of animals, critters, the AGT comedy. We got a lot to unpack with Corkey this morning. So Corkey, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to just go, and we'll have fun with you along the ride.
Well, I'll start by saying I know you told me it was okay not to wear clothes, but I opted for a shirt. So hopefully, I'd also like to tell you that I even shaved my mustache for you this morning.
I feel honored. I might.
We're good to go. Hey,
I know I'm gonna have to tell Lemmy.
Hey, the only good thing about hormones is that in the wintertime I can sometimes get a hot flash. You know, that's it. I mean, there's nothing else good about it. So
yeah,
there you go.
You don't have to shovel the driveway. You just go lay in it.
That's it. So I've had an interesting, amazing life. I will say that for sure. The biggest question I get asked all the time is, how'd you start working with lions and tigers? Because I am, 4 years retired from 40 years of exotic animals training with lions, tigers, and leopards. So,
wow.
And still got all my fingers and toes and not too many scars, and I only show them to my friends. So there's that. But most people will say, well, how'd you get started training lions and tigers? And the best thing I could say about that, it was fate. Right. I won't get into the really long version. It is fun, but we won't go rambling down that road. I will tell you the short version. The short version is that I was working at this horse farm after I quit college. And it was an apprenticeship where you learn all about horses. They had 365 Arabian horses, and it was called City Rock Arabian Farms. And this apprenticeship, you went there, you lived there, you worked there, you ate there, everything. And that's why I went, because I didn't have anywhere else to go, because my dad had said either go back to school or get a job. So I opted for get a job, you know. I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to send me back to veterinarian school because he always wanted a doctor in the family. But once I got to vet school, I realized pretty quick that really wasn't what I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to, work with animals, but I grew up in the mountains, Blue Ridge Mountains, and nobody ever told me, you could be a tiger trainer. That never came into a sentence when I was growing up. Not even once, not even when I went to circus and I saw Gunther Gabriel Williams and I said to my mom, I want to do that. And she did not say, you can do that if you want to. She just looked at me in utter shock. So somewhere along the line, the gods that be, the universe, whatever, decided that's exactly where I needed to be. So I go to work at the farm, this apprenticeship, and let me tell you, you could not get away with the stuff they got away with back then. We're talking late 70s. We're talking slap you in the back of the head just as much look at you. 5:30 to 7:30 every day, making minimum wage, which I think at that time was maybe like $2.50 an hour or something like that. I really don't remember. I remember at the end of the month you'd get about $800, and that's with overtime and everything. Oh, and well, there wasn't no overtime. You got paid for the extra. You can get time and a half. And then they take out $250 for your rent and $250 for your food and $200 for your horseback riding lessons and $100 for your farm school. And if you had $50 left over, you were real lucky. Now, here's the thing.
I was about to say you probably owed them $50.
I thought $50 was great because I never had $50 before, you know? So I was tickled to death with my $50. I got to play with horses all day. It was hard work, but I liked it. And I ended up with $50. I could do anything I wanted with, never had $50, so that was pretty cool. The man who ran the farm was, his name was Andre, and he was a German equestrian rider. He came over on the equestrian team, stayed, and his dream, although I didn't know this at the time, fate had put us together, was he wanted to train lions for the circus. Now, imagine that. So, about a year into it, I'm, working as an apprentice. I got another year to go, and I had to go up to the top of this hill. It was the middle of July. It was hot. I mean, hot. And I was complaining because I was the one who had to walk all the way to the top of that hill. Why me? Why did I do that? Why did they always pick on me? So I get up there to the top of the hill, and there's just this huge barn. Like one of these barns that's like 100 feet long and 60 feet wide, aluminum, and probably 15 foot tall. And there's no door on it except for the big sliding door. Now, hard to imagine, but back then I weighed about 95 pounds soaking wet. So I put all my muscle into sliding that big door back. And to this day, I remember that exact moment. I slid that door back about a foot. The sun shone in. It hit a painted drawing of a lion, and all the pigeons that were in there had come through the roof area, like this. And I literally heard music, like walking, and there's this semi. It's got lions and tigers on it, and it's all painted circusy, and it says, "Caution, I carry lions and tigers." And then I'll go up and look at the tractor part, and it says, "Andre, wild animal trainer." And I'm like, what? What in the world?
Wow.
So I had to get, and I had rushing back down the hill, and I didn't have the courage to ask him. I was asking all the girls, what? And they're like, yeah, that's Andre's truck. One day he's gonna leave here and go train lions for the circus. Well, I hatched the Disney plan. That's what I call it. Because back then, when I was a kid and you watched Disney, all the kids ever had to do was persevere, plan, persevere, and plan. And so that was my goal. I was going to plan and persevere. When he left, I was going to leave with him. Okay? So I hatched that theory right away. So now, every morning he'd come to the barn. I'd meet him with his cup of coffee. Here on here's coffee, just the way you like it. If he needed to run an errand, I could do that after work today for you. Don't bother. I'll take for you. I mean, it didn't matter. I was just Johnny on the spot, whatever you can think of, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to amaze a lot of people. No sex. Wasn't about sex. Say there, I was too naive to even know that worked. I mean, I didn't know a thing about all that stuff yet. I mean, I was barely 18 years old, and where I lived up in the mountains, we didn't have internet. People didn't tell you about those things. 5th grade, I saw the film, spells. So my level of sex education was next to none. But I'm just saying, I want to put that out there. It was not about that. More likely, he was like a father figure to me, the father that I always wanted. My dad was a wonderful man, but he was a police officer, worked in police force, Air Force all his life, never had any time for his kids, too busy doing this, too busy doing that. I look back on it now and I go, he was doing exactly what a father was supposed to do. He was putting a roof over our head, putting shoes on our feet, and making sure we had something to eat every day. That was his job. And he did that. He did a great job at it. But he never was around. You couldn't ask him a question. You couldn't go to him with anything. He was always too busy. And then here was this German who was like, "Was machst du jetzt? Scheiße, kleiner du." You know, he's always like on my case, want me to be perfect, make things right. I thought that meant he cared, you know? And so I thought, this is going to work out great. I'm going to run away, join the circus with my surrogate dad. This going to be great. You know what I mean? This is the plan, you know? So another about 8 months goes by. Meanwhile, he's built the inside of the semi. I've helped him. He's had the cages built. I've helped him do that. We've built the arena. I've helped him do that. I learned how to weld. I mean, we're doing all this on the side after a long day at work every day. The only day we had off was Sunday. And Sunday, it was lions and tigers, morning till night, because we were going to get this done. One day, he comes to me, puts his arm around me, and he goes, "I'm just about ready to move to Florida, and I'm going to train some lions and tigers." He said, "I just wish I knew somebody'd like to go with me." Couldn't even talk. I mean, it's hard if you know me to know a moment when I couldn't talk. But I'm like, you know, and he said, "You really want to do that? You want to travel the world and train lions and tigers?" That's what I want to do. I said, okay. So we started making a plan to leave, and I go home and I announce to my mom and dad that I am running away to join the circus with this man. Okay? My mom says, "You should go. You should take advantage of life while you're young. You should have a great time. I know that's in your heart. Go for it." My dad said, "You're not going anywhere with that damn German." Well, you're the one who told me to leave. And now I'm old enough to do things on my own. So you don't get paid. So sure enough, another month or so goes by, and we headed down to Florida. And I remember driving in the truck and looking in the side view mirror and watching the mountains disappear. And I think that was the first time in my life I ever really felt homesick, because the minute the mountains appeared out of that mirror, I was like, oh no, you know, because I'd always lived in the mountains or within a view of the mountains, you know. So I remember that distinctly. We got down there and we ended up traveling, you know, all over the country. And the cool thing was I looked like I was like 12 or 13, and everybody thought I was Andre's kid. And he didn't tell them any different. He made it good for me, because he didn't want people to think, well, I'm taking advantage of a 13-year-old. You know what I mean?
Right.
Think I was his kid, and that worked out great for me. And I mean, he had girlfriends and all that, and that went on fine. I was just happy being his kid. You know what I mean? To relive my childhood through those 8 years of being on the road with a circus. But then I was a little older, and I realized that this was cool, but there was no money in it. I mean, I didn't make any money, very little, and I knew that I needed to plan something for myself. So I finally said, you know, it's time for me to leave the nest. It's time for me to grow up and go do something. Well, the only opportunity I really had was I had a sister who lived in Lexington, Kentucky, which was the capital of horses.
Yeah.
I have a lot of horse information in my brain because, I worked on that horse farm with all those horses. And so I sent some resumes into a bunch of farms, and I ended up working at Vinery Horse Farms, which was Ben Walden Jr. Ben Walden Sr. owned Dearborn Farm. So you've probably heard of Dearborn Farms, although it's been a while, it's been in the news, but back then it was pretty spectacular. So I got a job as a foreman at Ben Walden Jr.'s farm, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. But the deeper I got into things with the horses, the less I liked that business. And it was hard for me. And then I got an opportunity to actually return to Sitting Rock Arabian Farms as the manager, and it was under new ownership, and it was no longer apprenticeship, but it was a real working farm. So the guy who owned it was somebody who had gone to Sitting Rock with me, and so I go back there, and that was great for a little while, but my heart was somewhere else. I had a taste of those big cats.
Where did you find them? Like
where do you get a cat?
Where do you find a tiger?
When he got he had 7 lions, and when he went to Florida, and he got 7 lions from the ages of 4 months old to 3 years old, and that's what we made an act out of. And so you just go to and you could buy a lion, believe it or not. Even into 2005, 2006, when I was getting tigers for the magic show. Now, I didn't buy them. You can't buy endangered species, but they were rescues because the people that had them in a zoo, they didn't want to care for them anymore. People were trying to get rid of them, so I was able to get them. But lions you could still buy, and later
I can't even fathom being that close. One of my kids went to Boy Scouts, and one of their trips one time was a trip to the big cat rescue thing here in North Carolina, and they're 12 feet away behind a barrier, behind a fence, behind another fence, behind another fence. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Yeah.
I ain't going. Their feet were big as my head. No way am I going in there with that thing.
I had a few close calls through the years. I can
imagine.
I'm here to tell you the story, so I guess I survived all of them. So
yeah.
My first close call was we had moved to Florida. We had all the lions. We had built these huge enclosures on the back of the property, and there was a big arena where we would work them in, just like the circus, getting them ready for go on the road. And the arena had big holes in it like this, so a lion could reach through. And one day, and we used to let them out in the arena so they could run and play, and they would be happy in there and all that because it was part of their conditioning. And one morning they were all out there, and Tina, who was really sweet and loved me and I'd already been in with and hugged on and all this, she was all crouched down. She saw me walking down there, and so I crouched down a little bit, and I started sneaking down there towards her, and she crouched a little more, and we were going to play. Well, meanwhile, Pootsy, who didn't like me at all, she's watching the game too, but I wasn't aware of her, wasn't making. And so I charged the arena, and Tina charged at me, and Tina reared up on her hind legs, and she's all like, and meanwhile, Pootsy came out of the side, and she reached through there, and all 5 claws, literally just swiped right across and I just, out of the corner of my eye, missed, and I fell backwards onto the ground, and she didn't get me. It was stupid.
Wow.
It was He was doing what lions, and it wasn't too long after that me and her had another encounter. And after that encounter, I learned to stay away from her. She did not like me.
Don't
But
turn your back on a lion. That
so
that's for
when
sure.
the chickens were loaded in the cages that went on the back of the semi, there were 4 cages on each row. And there were these big doors. And you open up the doors and you could see the lions in there. And when you open up the doors, there were these slots where you fed them. And they had these flaps on them. So you push the food in with a stick and it made the flaps raise up like that. And once the food went in, the flaps fell back down. Well, there was about, I don't know, maybe that much room between the bottom of the window and the bottom of the cage. Okay? And in the morning, I would go and check, did they drop their chicken? They were in 3 or 4 chickens each. And so I'd look down in there and is there a whole chicken? Did somebody drop a chicken? And Pootsy had dropped a chicken down in there. So I was going to, now the flap's down, in my mind, you can't get me. And the cages were on like these kind of balloon tires. So I reached my arm in that crack between the bottom of the cage and the bottom of the door, and she jumped forward. And when she jumped forward, she pinned my arm back out. And now she is digging at that flap. And I know
Oh, shit.
second, and my face is right there at the flap. And I know I am 2 seconds away from having my head pulled in and chewed off, And I couldn't scream for Andre. There was no, you see those scary movies and you're telling those people, just scream. Nothing would come out. There was,
my God.
and I don't know how long they that crazy, and I'm nothing's happening. And so finally, I calmed myself and I told myself, you're going to die if you don't get a sound out. And I manifested everything that was in me and I just went, ah! And she jumped back and I pulled my arm out with the chicken.
Wow.
And, but talk about close. Now fast forward about 10 years. And I'm now training my own animals for magic shows. And the first animal I got was a little female leopard that weighed about 80 pounds, very small for a leopard. Declawed on the front. I didn't declaw her, but that's the way she came to me. And I thought, this is perfect. I outweigh her by 20 pounds, maybe 25. And she doesn't have any claws on the front. It's going to be great. So I started in this warehouse building, just training her to walk on a leash. And I'd throw some meat out and she'd walk and get the meat. And then we'd throw the meat out and we'd walk and throw the meat back in the cage and she'd go back in. And I just do that with her every day, leading her around on a leash in this warehouse all by myself. Nobody there to back me up.
Wow.
No cell phones back then. I mean, there wasn't even a phone in that building, So then I wanted to make her happy. So I started walking her out in the woods behind this warehouse. Now she's on about a 7-foot leash. We're walking out through the woods and I'm letting her climb on the logs and, sniff around. And then we walk out and we walk back in and that goes on for 3 days, just perfectly nice, The third day, I'm feeling like Gunther Gable ain't got nothing on me. I'm the I know what I'm doing, I'm not even 30 yet. And I'm pretty sure I'm the greatest trainer in the world. I was pretty sure. And so I'm walking back through the thing, and I kind of got a little bit ahead of her instead of usually kind of letting her leave. I was in a hurry for some reason. I don't remember. I had a plan for that day. And I got a little bit ahead of her, and I'm not kidding you, the hair on the back of my neck went up. So whatever primal instinct That is, I can tell you that every hair on the back of my neck stood up, and that made me turn. And the minute I turned, she leaped on me. Well, she hit me full in the chest, and she knocked me to the ground. And now her only goal was to bite me in the neck. That was her
Oh,
thing. So I'm
Wow.
taller,
fuck.
on the
Shit.
ground, trying to keep her mouth away from my neck, and she's got her front legs wrapped around me, no clothes, and she's trying to pull me to her, and I'm trying to push her away. And this is going on. I don't know how long. I don't want to scream because I don't want anybody to know how stupid I am. I don't want because that's going to be the end of my career if she's loose. So I roll over on top of her and no, no, no. And I stand up and she's looking at me and I'm looking at her and she leaps at me again. And we go into the same thing again.
Wow.
And now,
Oh my God.
I'm getting tired. I don't know if she is, but I am. And I roll over on top of her. And I don't ever condone hitting animals, but this was a life and death situation, I felt like. So I
Sure.
reached up, picked up the only stick that was in range, and it was rotten. I hit her, it just pissed her off as it broke into a million.
Oh.
And so it literally ended up sitting on her and scooting her back to the warehouse. Just sitting and scooting, sitting and scooting. We're battling, we're fighting. We get almost to the door. I left the door open on purpose. As she gets up, she sees the open door. She knows there's a treat in there waiting for her. She goes towards the door. I put her in the carrier, or the cage she had, and threw the food in there, and I shut the door. And I am in a cold sweat at this point. I'm like, I saw my life pass before my eyes. I mean, It was dark quick, but it was fat. I just see this, and now I got a problem because Andre taught me two things. One, always start with a whisper when training the animals, and two, never leave in a bad situation. So now I got to take her back out.
No, hell no. Hell no.
I'm not going to take her out.
1-800-LEOPARD or us. Come get this son of a bitch.
Get this leopard out of here. Yeah.
I'm just going to walk her 30 feet and walk her back. So she's still got the leash and the collar on her and everything. And so I open the cage up. She comes out. I start throwing food out in front of her. So she's just thinking about food. And she walks out there and we walk back and I put her in and it's like, okay. I think I took the rest of the day off.
I think
for sure.
that would earn a day or a week or a life off. That's
So
holy crap! I cannot imagine that you went back for seconds after something like that.
As an animal trainer, that you can't end like that. I can't have that the last thing in her brain.
Yeah, I get that. But just being in that situation in the first place.
Well, I mean, thank goodness she was a small leopard. That's all I can say about that. And I trained lions and tigers for magic shows, traveled all over the country just with one cat or two cats doing magic shows, even worked for Harry Blackstone a little bit and did this and did that. Harry Blackstone Jr., I should say. And it was great, wonderful. And when I lived in Chicago, I met a magician who was young and he was really good. And him and I hit it off really well. And we said one day we're going to have a magic show with tigers in it. And we both agreed on that kind of thing. And we both went our separate ways. And then in 2006, he called me and he'd been working here in Pigeon Forge for a while. And he had an opportunity to have a real magic show with a producer and everything, but they wanted big cats. So he called me and he said, Can you bring some big cats to Pigeon Forge? And I said, well, yeah, ain't that what we've been talking about all this time? So in 2007, I brought two tigers, a white tiger and an orange tiger. Later, I added a white lion to the group, and I worked lions and tigers in the magic show, variety show here in Pigeon Forge until 2020. In 2020, pandemic and the show closed, and I have to tell you, I was not unhappy about that. I mean, my I'd lost the orange tiger. She was 19 when she passed away,
Oh,
and
goodness.
I was, I was over the 2 shows a day, every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I was 13
Yeah.
years, 3.5 years. So I ended up home and just, chillaxing for a while. I mean, like everybody else in 2020, people were like, "Oh, I don't like being." I was the only person during the pandemic. I was like, "It's the greatest thing in the world." I don't even care if we ever get back. I'm happy. I live alone. I got my animals. The TV works. What more do you need, people? This is, you know. And
Yeah.
I was really great. I did a viral. I cut my hair, my own hair, in a viral video. Got 8 million views on my YouTube channel.
What?
Wow.
Look at it. Yeah.
Cutting your hair.
13 minutes of your life you'll never get back. And I thought I was making it to share with my friends, to make them happy, to bring a little joy. And Tiger King was over on TV. There wasn't much going on. People were dead for entertainment, So
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because I actually wanted to kind of, I know that was, we're seeing whatever the director wants us to see and all that kind of stuff, but like what is the daily care of a freaking tiger? I mean, like, how do you even take care of one? And
the great thing about wild animals is they're pretty hardy. They
yeah.
rarely ever get sick. So as long as you give them a clean environment and good food and clean water, you really, you don't have to do a lot. Now, if you've got them in a show or something like that, then there's washing of the animals, there's throwing out the enclosures, there's, preparing the meat, for the day. You're getting treats ready, you're getting food ready, you're adding the vitamins, you're weighing stuff and all that.
How many pounds? Yeah, how many pounds of meat does a tiger eat in a day?
A working tiger that's eating every single day would get between like 12 and 15 pounds a day max. And
that's a lot, but it's not as much as I thought.
Yeah, and there'd be one day fasting. Now, in the wild, a tiger would gorge themselves. They might eat 40, 50, 60 pounds in one meal, and then they wouldn't eat for 4 days. They'd just go lay up somewhere like you after Thanksgiving,
Yeah, yeah.
But when they're getting a regular meal every day, and you don't want them fat. I mean, mine were fat, but that's not good. Because they, it's more healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
We all know that. So, but
did the Tiger King thing hurt or help people like you that were doing this the right way? And did it bring enough attention to your business, or was it just like you get roped in with them?
I think part of the reason you don't see tigers in magic shows and things like that, and it's really sad, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. The Tiger King, he really actually, it certainly hurt everything, because there's a murmur of things out there about how animals are mistreated. And there are places where animals are mistreated, whether it be a dog or a cat or a tiger or a horse. We just saw in the Olympics, even in today's time, somebody's out there beating a horse with a whip. I mean, it's inexcusable. I was never that person, with exception of that one time with that leopard. I've never been that person. But what comes down to is, people are, if they don't know something, then they hear what they want to hear. If they doesn't have tigers and they hear everybody beats on their tigers and everybody's mean to their tigers, then that becomes the mantra of what they say. And
Right.
PETA jumped on that mantra, and that's why there's no elephants in Ringling Brothers. They said they're all mistreated. That's why you don't see tigers anymore and anything. They're all mistreated. Now, PETA feels like they did a good thing, okay? But here's the thing. Those elephants love to work. Just like you like going to do your job, they were going to do their job. It was stimulation. It's way better life than sticking an elephant in a zoo. And I don't care how much room you give that elephant in the zoo, and he could only walk around that zoo 1,000 times, and he's bored. They're smart like us, bored. It's like being in prison.
No stimulation. Yeah.
Like prison, we don't want to see animals in prison. I get that, but nobody's taking animals from the wild. All the animals that were here were already here. So you said elephants who were so well cared for and so well taken care of and so well stimulated that they love their job, they love getting up, and then all those elephants go somewhere where all of a sudden there's none of that. That's a horrible existence for them. All the tigers out of Ringling Brothers went to some rescue. I'm going to tell you where they went, but now for the rest of their life, they're in a cage. Yeah, it's big enough for them to walk around in, but there's zero stimulation.
Yeah,
Zero.
and they need a lot. Like, I mean, just you couldn't even provide. I mean, what they need. I think I read somewhere like one tiger needs like 400 square miles or something to so it was some ridiculous, space.
You put in a cage that's 100 feet by 60 feet, and few of them are. Few of them are these races.
Yeah.
That's imagine you go put yourself in and nobody comes to you other than bring you a meal every day. That's it. That's all you get.
Warehousing. Yeah.
So I get, because I'm an animal lover, why people don't want to see animals in cages. Nobody gets it better than me. I never want to see an animal in a cage, especially if they never get out of that cage.
Yeah.
If they never get to run, if they never get any stimulation, my tigers, when they heard the music, they would come out of their big enclosure where there's no way I could get them out. They would come to the door, come out of their big enclosure, and get in the magic props on their own. Because that was their job. That was fun for them. It was, I don't know, but I mean, they did it, and we tried to stimulate them as much as we could. They had a place they stayed while they worked, and we rotated the tigers, and they went out to a private zoo where they had a big area and a pool and everything, so they got rotated around. I did everything I could to make them healthy and happy. And people just really set against all that. And that's fine. I feel bad for the younger people coming up who might have had a dream one day to work with lions and tigers, because that ain't going to happen. You're not going to do it anymore. Maybe it'll take full circle one day. I don't know. I don't even like a bird in a cage. I mean, and if a bird's just sitting in a cage and he never gets out and he never has a chance to flap his wings and nothing, I mean, that's sad.
Yeah.
I agree. But that's not the way I think and what I did. And anybody can justify anything they do. I mean, I live in the real world. I could certainly justify what I did. I made an income. If that was exploitation, I didn't think of it that way. It was just I made a living with partners. Tigers were my partner.
Yeah, that's wild. I just cannot. That's such a giant killing machine.
Yeah.
I ain't going. I don't want to pet one. I don't want to get close to one. I don't want to be close enough to get peed on by one.
How many cats did you have at the maximum?
The maximum time was only when I was with Andre, and we had eight lions. All the rest of the time, I either had one or two. When I came to Pigeon Forge, we ended up getting a lion, so I personally had 3. That was the most big cats I ever had at one time. And I've never bred anything. People would say, well, you could breed them and you could make all this money. When I had monkeys, oh, you could breed them, make all this money. When I had parrots, you breed them, make all this monkey. No, there's enough unwanted animals out there. That's not my...
And that's what I was going to say. Where did they go? Where are they now? Like,
all of my big cats passed away at old age in my care.
Okay.
And in 2022, I lost my last white tiger, Hollywood. And other than that, and I said I wasn't going to get any more big cats. I still have a 60-pound lynx that to me and is awesome. And he's 9. And I've this retirement plan now that once everything is gone, and I'm not rushing anybody to their grave, I'm just trying not to replace anything anymore, just take care of what I got. And one day, I had 3 dogs ago, I wasn't going to get any more dogs, and now I have 6. So I'm not sure.
How this you got a ways to go there.
So
wow.
Well, right quick, let me recognize one of our sponsors, and then we'll get to the rest of your story. So our new sponsor for the podcast is Kakalaki, and they are hailed as a local brand and with a national following, and are now celebrated more than 2 decades in North Carolina. Kakalaki brand is an iconic Southern lifestyle brand that specializes in Kakalaki branded sauces, snack nuts, beverages, food service, menu items, apparel, outdoor sporting goods, sponsored events, and more. The company also makes and distributes Kakalaki Cheerwine. This is a sweet sauce that is well as their Carolina Tar Heel barbecue sauce, which is an officially licensed collegiate product. Kakalaki is a family-owned and operated business headquartered in Pittsburgh, North Carolina. And if you use the promo code ButFixer15 at your checkout, you will save 15% off of your order. I am actually one of their brand ambassadors. That happened a while back. All of their brand ambassadors have like these cooking teams and all this kind of stuff. I just cook for me and Emily every night and posted on my Facebook page, and they got wind of it. They saw it. I kept tagging them, and now I'm actually part of the team. So to have them on here sponsoring the podcast, we appreciate it. And you're going to get a little care package sent to you from Kakalaki once we finish the podcast. All right. So I think we were at 2020, I think is where we were when we kind of went down a side road there, but I have so many questions.
Well, and then so I was retired, now I said that, but I've always done film work on the side. I started doing that when I lived in Chicago. There was all these brand warehouses like Land's End, JCPenney, Sears, and that's how I got started, bringing little animal models down, like chicks or ducks or dogs or kittens or whatever they wanted for their magazines and things like that. And then one day I got a call from Columbia Films, and they said that in February, I think they called me in January, mid-January, and they said in February, mid-February, that we're going to start filming in Woodstock, Illinois, this movie. Didn't know anything about the movie, didn't know who was going to star in it, didn't know who was going to be the director, didn't know anything about that, but they were looking for Ground Hogs for the movie. And I heard Columbia Films, and I said, well, yeah, we do ground hogs. I'd never had a groundhog.
I was going to say, okay, how do you source a groundhog?
Never been around anybody that had a groundhog. I mean, I don't know about no groundhogs, but I figured I had about 4 weeks to learn, and I'm a fast learner. So I said, sure, we can do groundhogs. So they said, well, in about 2.5 weeks, we're going to have a production meeting could you bring a groundhog to the Sure, I can bring a groundhog to the I didn't even know where I was going to get one. I was going to bring one
I
to
love
that
it.
production meeting.
I
I'd go
love it.
out of the backyard. But anyway, now you have to remember this is over 30 years ago, and there was no internet to speak of. We might have just been getting AOL, but you couldn't search like you can
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And the way I would find animals is my good old Rolodex. And I got in that Rolodex and I started calling every animal person I knew and networking to find some groundhogs. Hey, Sam, do you know anybody's got any ground? Oh, yeah, so and so got a groundhog. Can I have their phone number? Blah, blah, blah. I ended up with 15 groundhogs, meaner than snakes.
Oh my God.
Dogs have the attention span of a dead hamster. Zero attention span. They don't like to be held if they haven't been held their whole life. Now, you get one, a little teeny baby, and you raise it up, it's the greatest pet in the world. But you get one that's already a year old and you try to pick it and bite the heck out of you. Let me tell you something about groundhogs. You've heard of parrots having a lot of pressure with their teeth. They ain't nothing compared to a groundhog. And so we put all these groundhogs in carriers, and I put on these big gloves. And every day I would reach in there, get bit 1,000 times, and get that groundhog and bring him out, and they would give him marshmallows and bananas and anything else we thought he would like. And he got that while he was being held. And I did that every day with all 15, 4 times a day.
Jeez.
Until I had 2 that were pretty good. They were taken to being held and being kind, and they really seemed to like it. So when the production meeting came, that's the 2 I took up there. Took one groundhog out and was holding him and letting people pet him, and he was pretty good. And they were like, okay, great. And that's when I found out that Harold Ramis was going to be the director and Bill Murray was going to be
all right.
me down, all that. And so I literally left that meeting with because this was the first real big movie I ever did. And I was so excited about it. Now, here's the cool thing. I was making $800 a day to do that movie and with the groundhogs. And I worked on that movie 26 days.
Wow.
Now, you're wondering, why did I work on that movie 26 days when you only see that groundhog for a second? Really? She's sitting on the steering wheel. That's it. That's a whole nother story. I'm going to tell you in a minute. But we did so many other things with that groundhog. We had, the groundhog met Bill Murray at night because it was the only one that understood what he was going through, and he'd sit in the park and feed it mints off the pillow, and the groundhog would sit there like this. The groundhog gets loose one time, it gets out of the stump and it runs away, and the whole town's looking for the groundhog, and there were little scenes where the groundhog went across the alley, or under a car or something, where the whole town was looking for this groundhog, but Bill Murray knew that if he went back to the park that night and he had them mints, sure enough, here come that groundhog running across the park. So he catch the big hero, and all this. I mean, there was so much more we did with those groundhogs. And then the movie happens, and you see just
cut it all out. Yeah.
Oh, my great work on some editing room floor somewhere. And here's the thing. Bill Murray even picked me to be in a scene with him. They did a whole scene where he was dressed as Elvis and he was hanging out with a biker gang and I was his drunk girlfriend. And I mean, in that whole scene, it never happened. Never.
It's crazy.
Never got an, and even when about 5 years ago, I got invited out to LA for to do the 25th anniversary of Groundhog Day, and I was on the panel and I got to talk, and this was a thing where they I'm just telling a story about the groundhogs, and everybody was laughing so hard at my story. I mean, I thought the first row was going to pee in their pants. I really did. Mike Haley came up to me and he goes, "You ever do stand up?" And I go, "No, I've never done stand up, you know." And he said, "You should, you know." Uh, so that's how the next part of my life started.
Right.
So there you go.
So, can you give us so we got Groundhog Day. Can you give us like a list of your most notable commercials or movies or shows that people might say, "Oh shit, I just saw that," and had and knowing it was you behind the camera with the animal?
To try to do some of the most recent ones because I can't remember things I have done. I mean, I know that I have worked with Robert De Niro. I know that I worked with I can't even remember the people I've worked with. I've worked with because my brain doesn't work well anymore. I need to write it down and have it in front of me, but
about time for that book.
so many people you would be really impressed with, but I can't even remember their name right now, and that's the truth. But I mean, recently, I mean, we're doing Twisted Tea, which is cool. I did a Home Depot commercial. Last summer, I did the squirrel commercial with
Yeah, tell that story. That's a good story.
Oh my goodness. I was on a cruise to Norway when I got the call, and they were looking for a squirrel to do a commercial for Nissan Rogue. And they had called me up, and I said, sure. And we have a squirrel that's a regular working squirrel. The guy that owns him lives
Working
in Tennessee. And he's one of the only people in the country, well, in Tennessee, that has a permit to own a squirrel. Long story there. I'm not even going to get into that, but he has made the squirrel the unofficial mascot of the Tennessee football team. And he goes to all games, and everybody loves the squirrel and all this. And so I knew I had a squirrel. But the thing about this squirrel is he's fat and he's lazy. So he's great if you just want to see a squirrel sitting on a tree eating a nut. I mean, perfect. They wanted a squirrel that would run. And I'm thinking, we're going to have to get that squirrel in shape.
That's squirrel workout.
Right now, that squirrel run. He don't. He never runs his life, and he goes start now. So they, told me what they wanted. They said, how far do you think we could get this squirrel to run? And I said, seriously, max 10 feet. And I was feeling optimistic that day that we could get the squirrel to run 10 feet. Honestly, that squirrel never ran 10 feet. Never was going to. And so what had happened is we got close to the day, about 3 or 4 days before, and we'd been working with this squirrel, and I'm thinking, no, squirrel ain't going to run no 10 feet. And I promised him a squirrel that's going to run 10 feet. So I ended up getting another little squirrel from a rehabber, and we used that squirrel, and he did great. He loved me, followed me around. I could get that squirrel to go anywhere as long as I ran in front of him. Now, I'm a little chubby, and I'm old. So when we first got to the first scene, well, when we were doing the day before, we're going to start all this, we did a location scout. And we're walking around, and they're talking about the squirrel doing this and squirrel doing that. And I'm saying, what happened to the 10-foot rule? Didn't I say 10 foot? I believe I said 10 foot several times. Anyway, so he said, you know what, we're just going to set the camera up right here, and we're going to start the squirrel about 3 foot back, and you're going to see the squirrel go under the camera, and then you'll see the dog in the background coming. And of course, we never run the squirrel and the dog together. That wouldn't be good. And I said, perfect. I thought, this is the easiest job I've ever done. Wrong. No, no, not at all. So what ended up happening was we get there, the very first shoot, we were on that shoot 8 days. And the very first shoot, we're going to run this squirrel like 40 feet. Okay. And I'm like, 10-foot rule. Oh, you could do it, Corky. You can do it. You're great, Corky. You can do it. So I knew the squirrel. I trained him to run into the carrier. So we practiced him running about 8 feet, and he ran right into the carrier. And then we did about 15 feet, and then I said, "Okay, we're ready." And they said, "And you can move with the squirrel because the way things are today, that doesn't take you out of the scene. As long as you're not overlapping the squirrel's not overlapping you, you can be within 3 or 4 feet of the squirrel." I said, "Okay, great." So I put the carrier down on the ground, and I'm running backwards as fast as I can. And let me tell you something. Little fat old ladies can't run backwards as fast as a little squirrel can run forward. So he was catching up with me every time, and it was like I couldn't make that 40 feet before he'd catch up. So this time I turned around, put the carrier facing him, and I took off at a flat run, not knowing if a squirrel was behind me or not, and just hoping for the best. And by the time I got to the mark where the 40-foot was, I turned around, and that little squirrel jumping into that carrier. It was perfect.
Nice.
So after that, that's what we did. And we did that in downtown Gastonia, I think, where we filmed it. We did it in Charlotte. We did it in a forest preserve. We did it everywhere. Now, I think we filmed this either the last week of July or the first week of August, and it was hot. I mean, we were on the city sidewalks and streets and all that stuff. And one time I was in the forest preserve, and I'm looking at all these trees, and I'm thinking,
he gone.
This is the last day because he's fully rehabbed. He's going to go up one of these trees, and he's out of here. You know what I mean? No, he didn't. He still followed me, and that was great, but after about the 4th run, I was running like 70 feet. And, they're looking at me and going, "Corky, are you okay?" No, I'm not. I'm in the snow. I'm okay. Well, we only going to do it one more time.
One more time.
At least 5
2
more
seconds.
times.
2 seconds. One more time. One more time.
Just one more time. Could you do it one more time?
One more time.
Oh my God! Next time a director says one more time, I think I'm gonna hurt somebody. I really do.
Yep.
But anyway, we got it all done, and it was all good. There was one scene on a Sunday. We filmed on a Sunday, which was weird, but we did 8 days in a row, so Sunday came in there. And we were in this grassy area. It was like in the middle of a neighborhood. It was like a park that had a ball field, a place to walk your dogs, but they didn't have any fencing. So they went in there the day before and they built a little dog park. Okay? And that's the opening scene where you see the dog jump out over the fence to start the chase. And so there was one shot and they want to see this squirrel running down the sidewalk, running away from the fence. And I said to Rick, who was the first AD, and there was hundreds of people watching because it was Sunday. And there were kids on mopeds, and there were bicycles and skateboards and dogs on leashes and people all around and cars purring and all this stuff going on. And I said, and up to then, we'd pretty much been on our own and been cordoned off. And I said to Rick, I don't think it's a good idea to run this squirrel. He goes, "Oh, it's only 8 feet, Corky. You can do it. You can do it." I said, I'm comfortable running this squirrel in this situation. Because what if he runs off into the crowd? That's it. We're going to lose him. It'll be okay. So my assistant sets the squirrel down. I call the squirrel to me. Squirrel does a 180, runs down the sidewalk about 80 feet and goes up a tree.
Oh, no.
And kid and dog in the neighborhood chase that squirrel up that tree. And I'm telling everybody to get back, and they all get back. I call the squirrel. Thank God he come down to me. And then I'm walking back down to where we are, and Rick's down there going, all right, we need to clear all these people out.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just an animal wrangler. I don't know anything, you know?
Right.
Commercial comes out, and I think if you watch close, you get 2 little blurps of that squirrel. But the dog we had in it did a really good job. She was she's a great job. Cute dog, good facial expressions. So I could see why they wanted to focus on the dog. But I mean, I felt like I did all that work, and you go, this is when you see squirrel. Bleep, bleep. That's it.
I have nowhere near the, obviously the experience that you have, but the one time that we did the Twisted Tea commercial with Tiki, I felt the same way. When he had to be in the pool on the raft, like it took me 3 weeks of putting his ass in a raft in my bathtub 3 times a day to get him used to balancing on water, and that commercial comes out, nothing, not even, he's not even a blip of him in the pool.
And that pool half the day. Tiki was on that thing half the day. I mean, y'all did great. I was so proud of you. I mean, it was just splashing and all this, and he was just hanging out, had his little life preserver on, and Twisted Tea inner tube. I mean, he looked great. Everything was wonderful, and then nothing. Got
crazy.
Helicopter though, so that was good.
They get him in a helicopter.
Yeah.
So tell us. Okay, so we got again. I'm sure we could probably go on for about 4 hours in your animal career, but you do have a second leg of your career that came about, and you've had some pretty freaking successful doings here recently. So why don't you give us let's switch to animal wrangler to comedian, and let's unpack that box a little bit.
Well, I mean, I swear I get my best material with the librarians, not the librarians, but over at the library, I have about 6 or 7 women now that we're old, and we meet up once a week, and we cross stitch or diamond paint or whatever, and just gab like a bunch of old hens, and that's where I get most of my material. But, after the thing with Groundhog Day, I mean, I like attention. I've always thought I really should be an actress, but I ended up animal wrangling. That's fine with me, my animals are in so many things. And I just all of a sudden, somebody says to me, you should do stand up. You're funny, And I didn't really take them at their word, but I used to help with a children's theater here in Pigeon Forge. It doesn't exist anymore, which is really sad, but they had a great children's theater here. Did so many productions there. And I used to volunteer and help out and do this and that occasionally and lend them an animal or help with an animal if they had something for the production or whatever. And a lot of really nice people. And I think it was the end of the second year, they had decided that they would do a talent show where anybody could be in a talent show. There's no award. Nobody wins. You just get to be in a talent show. And this is for all the kids who never really got to meet their full potential on the stage, but wanted to. Maybe never even got picked for a part, but they wanted to play the piano, or they wanted to sing the song, or they wanted to tap dance, or whatever it was. No judgment, judgment-free zone where you could just go out and be creative and do your art, whatever it was, and people were going to cheer for you. And so when they started putting that together, I thought, can I do some stand-up? Cork adults too. And I thought this would be a great place to start my stand-up career because they're not going, if they do laugh at me in a good way or a bad way, that's okay. Nobody's going to boo me or throw tomatoes at me there. This is a loving community. You know what I mean? So I go there and I think we were supposed to do 3 minutes, but when we did the dress rehearsal, the lady who was running the dress rehearsal she was doubled over, and she said, Corky, if you want to do more than 3 minutes, it's perfectly fine. I said, okay. Did 8 or 9 minutes. And I had curlers in my hair, and they were falling out during the routine, like not on purpose, but I suck at doing stuff like that. And make it that much more funny, but anyway, so I did my little stand-up routine there, and it went over really well. And everybody coming up to me afterwards and go, man, you should do that professionally, you're funny. And it was all very clean comedy. I'm really clean comedy, and so fast forward a couple of years, about 2 years ago, there was a Seniors Got Talent contest in Knoxville. And you had to be over 60, I qualify, and you had to audition, and they only took 10 talents. That's it. Well, what the heck, I'll try. So I sent them the video of my at the Creative Theater, and that was my audition, and I got in. And I thought to myself, man, they must only had 10 people try out, because I got in. I was really shocked that I got in. And I go there, and a lot of wonderful talent. I mean, it was fun. It was just fun. It was a fundraiser for dang, I should know the name of this. I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, it was for a retirement home group that helped retirement homes do better, basically. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna help them out, And so it was a lot of fun. I didn't win. I didn't get second place. But everybody laughed really hard, and I felt like I'd really done something. And people come up to me afterward and go, that was so funny. You should have won. You should have won. Well, the people who won deserved it. Let's just put it that way. And I didn't care that I didn't win. And they invited me back last year to do it again. And not only did I win, but I won People's Choice Award as well. So I won 2 trophies. And
congratulations.
Hold on, let me get you the name of this people, because they deserve to have a name. I got it right here. Morning Point Foundation. Morning Point Foundation. Okay. So that was who we did it for, and I really want to get their name in there because they were good people. And then one day I got a call from a company, and you never know if something's a scam anymore. I mean, I don't even trust my bank calls me when my bank emails me. I call them back up and I go, hey, did y'all just call me? Did you email me? I mean, I don't trust anything anymore. And they're getting really good at tricking you. So it's easy to get fooled. I'm so careful. But anyway, so this company called Second Act, and I guess they're on TV somewhere. I've never seen it, but they do people who have one career, quit that career, and another career, and
all right.
So
that's
they thought,
cool.
I don't know where they got my name, but they thought I'd be perfect for that show, and the show pays $100,000 for the winner. Well, they were all excited about it. I went through all the rigmarole and everything, and in the end, I didn't make it on that show. She said that they had looked at maybe 100 comedians before they got to me, and they didn't even look at me because, they were over stand-up comedians.
Right.
And she said, but I've got a friend that works on America's Got Talent, and I'm going to see if I can't get you over there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's nice. Because people tell you stuff all the time. They want to let you off light, or easy. So I didn't think anything of it. Like a month goes by, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and I get this email from AGT, and I thought it was a scam. Didn't even think about it. Deleted it. Got another one.
Oh no.
They called me and said, we've been trying to reach you. And when they started out with those words, I thought it was a car insurance guy.
Yeah.
Hung up on them, and they really put in a big effort to get a hold of me, and finally they did, and I couldn't believe it, but I was still like, yeah, this ain't gonna happen, I couldn't even get on the $100,000 show. How am I gonna get on the $1 million show, And I'll be danged if April they didn't fly me out to LA and I got to audition in front of Simon and Sophie and Heidi and everybody, and it was just wonderful. And
That's wild.
Such a surreal experience because I don't watch TV, and I didn't know how big a stage America's Got Talent is. And I mean, that's stupid. How could you not know? What rock have you been living under? Well, I live under quite a few rocks, I did not know how big it was. And I think that was a good thing because I walked out there just like I walked out on the stage in Knoxville. I mean, I was going to do a fundraiser. I didn't.
Right.
And dang, I got 4 yeses. And I was
crazy. You had a great opening. You had a great opening line. Say, do your. Can you do your opening about all the animals that you have and
before I start? I think there's a few things you should know about me. I have 6 dogs, 3 cats, 2 sugar gliders, 23 trained rats, 2 horses, and a donkey. I'm single.
That was perfect. It's too good.
Hard because I didn't know where I was going with that, So
yeah.
Anyway, Howie laughed. I thought when I got Howie to laugh, and he gave me a standing ovation at the end. And
wow.
There's a couple of things they had left out. And like I start talking about doing the crafts at the library, which leads into that line about the Google search, because I'm looking for a frame for one of my crafts. That makes it's not dirty at all. Where your brain takes you, that's up to you. I'm talking about the frame, and I say, I know I've learned from searching for frames that you should never start a Google search with the first 2 words 9 inches. And of course, that had a great laugh. And cut that part out about the frame. They just went from me and my friends over at the library, and then we go into the 9 inches. I guess they were trying to give a little spice to it,
Right.
And that was fine. And then I don't remember. I was seeing it for the first time on America's Got Talent on TV, just like y'all were, because I was such a cloud in my brain, and it was so surreal that I can't remember what the judges said. So I was really, I knew I got 4 yeses, but I didn't remember what they said about me. So I was really looking forward to actually hearing their comments, because when you're up there on that stage, you don't hear what they say, But I know that Simon said America's gonna love you, but they cut that out. And,
man.
And as everybody knows by now, I didn't make it to the quarterfinals. They only had 44 people going through to the quarterfinals. When we first got there, they said that out of 70,000 people, they'd pick 200 people to audition. And out of those 200 people, 70 or so would make it through. And not all those would get aired. And that when we were going to be aired, we wouldn't know until a week before. There were 8 weeks of auditions, and I had to sit through every one of them. Oh,
Wow.
word went by, I'm not on it. Second week went by, I'm not on it.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
Third week, no word. Fourth week, no word. Fifth week, no word. Sixth week, no word. I'm like, seventh week, no word. Then, like a couple of days after the seventh audition day, I get this email that says, "Congratulations, we're going to air your." I'd already given up. I mean,
Wow.
I was going to be on there, and so it got aired. And I told everybody, I said, "Listen, I'm not going to win. I'm not going out there to win. There's so much good competition. A stand-up comedian can't even compete with these people who are balancing on top of a pole 30 foot in the air with a tumbler head or something. You can't compete with that. I mean, if they just did comedians, then it'd be different. But anyway, I just said, I hope I get seen so people will know I actually went out there and I didn't lie about it.
Wow.
And so, I mean, because I think people were getting like, yeah, Corky, sure you went out to America's Got Talent. Oh yeah, we're sure about that.
Right.
So anyway, I got aired, and like, I'm not kidding you. The minute it was aired, my phone ding 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 ding
Wow.
ding 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 like that. I would have to turn my phone off for the whole day because the whole entire time, ding 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 ding, I got well over 10,000 friend requests.
Wow.
And
That's
even
crazy.
today,
Wow.
when I pick up my phone, there's new friend requests, and there is somebody in Bangkok who's laughing at my video.
Yeah.
You know what I'm?
It's wild.
It's
It is wild. Yeah.
teaching. I mean, they have 3 billion followers, and you make a joke, and it's just so far-reaching. And I've gotten 4 movie deals out of it. And
wow.
There's your actress wish.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. Don't tell me God don't know what you need. Don't tell me you won't fall. You won't bring dreams to fruition, because all you got to do is move the seed of faith, and I'll tell you, it works, because that's all I got. I got a little, and but they're not big movies. Probably none of them. Maybe one of them might make it on the Netflix, but it's a little start, and I don't care. I don't want to do it. I don't think I'm gonna win millions of dollars or anything doing a movie. I'm not gonna be the next A-lister out there, that's for sure. But it'll be fun doing them. You know what I mean? It'll be fun participating, getting to act.
Wow.
See if
Yeah.
that's the next step for me. I don't know. People say, well, you should do more comedy. You should go practice. You should work your art. Well, here's the thing. I went up to Knoxville to some open mics, and I'm not judging this, but the comedians are so vulgar. I mean, not dirty words, shit, damn, cunt or something like that, but
shit, damn cunt.
a picture that you can't unsee in your brain, and it's constant. And I can't do that. You know what I mean? And that's for somebody else. So, does my comedy have a little bit of indo in it? Yes, but it's like the cartoons you see where, yeah, the adults got that joke, but none of the kids. You know what I mean? I want to be friendly. I don't want to be dirty. I don't want to say bad words and what I say. I think people can be funny and make great movies without having a cuss word in every sentence. You know what I mean? And I love that when that happens. When I see a movie and and it was a great movie and nobody even said damn, I'm like, yeah, that's great. Let's model that to our children. That's a possibility, that you don't have to be nasty and vulgar. No, I'm going off on it now. So I didn't go practice because I practice. that whole has got talent, that whole, you know, seniors got talent thing, all that stuff. It just happened. I didn't.
That's what I was going to ask. Were so you weren't doing shows in between? You just did that, and you're not like out on a circuit or doing anything. You got on America's Got Talent.
Here's the truth. I mean, would I be a stand-up comedian if they paid me right and they sent me somewhere that was fun? Absolutely.
Right.
But if I want to go out bar hopping to try to build my name,
yeah, that's crazy.
I've already had a career. I'm retired. If the movies would stop calling me, I'd be completely retired. But they don't leave me alone. They just keep calling. You know?
Said almost nobody ever. I wish the movies would quit calling me to be in them. Yeah.
I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth because I still love doing those jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
Still fun, and there's still a great way to make a little extra income. You know, they beats working at Hardee's. So
for sure.
Now I'm not putting down anybody that works at Hardee's. I'm just saying it's a lot more fun. But you know, so
you have had one wild ride, Corkey. That's like I said, I think we could go on for a week with this conversation.
Part 2. Yeah, for sure.
We might have to come back and do part 2. But Corkey, I really appreciate you coming on and spending your time with us this morning. It's a pleasure and an honor knowing you, working with you behind the scenes on the you've opened up doors for me, and
Thank you. And I know we can't say too much about the last commercial we did together, but I'll say that I was really proud of you. You did a great job, and thank you for being who you are and doing what you do. And it's people like you that help me be who I am, and I don't ever take that for granted. So
awesome.
Go team.
Here, it was nice to meet you, John. And
thank you. It's hard to get a word in edgewise between the two of you, that's for sure. But it's awesome. Yeah, it's great. I enjoyed it.
John, I know you want to know about something. What is it?
Shane got my number one question of like, how do you care for a big cat and how much food do they eat? And when you're running 8 or 9 of them, I mean, that's just the logistics of that is crazy. So he definitely covered that, and no, I totally enjoyed it and like hearing the stories. That's the greatest part of doing this, actually. So that and our 13 YouTube followers will be very excited to hear this.
I'll put it on my YouTube, and maybe we'll build following together. And
all right.
I need 250 more subscribers, because I want to tell my life story in a membership. I'm never going to write it down, but if I get 250 more subscribers, then I can do a membership, and I will tell a portion of my life story every week. And by the end of the year, you'll know the whole story. And the name of the book is To Hear the Lions Roar.
All right. Awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, we do have a few other ones on. We do have some on social media, so we'll post that for you also.
Yeah, we'll put it everywhere. Just make sure you keep your computer open until your thing says fully. Yeah,
I'll hit stop. Thank you again for the time, Corkey. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna hit stop, but you'll still be on. So.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Butt Fixer Podcast. Stay tuned for more guests, more stories, and more butt fixes. Make sure you click like, subscribe, and follow at all of the places where you stream podcasts.